This is going to be a strange list. We have so many different weapon categories with so many different weapons. Now, for some disclaimers, this list is not going to be including fist or claw weapons, since I'm not 100% sure those should count, since being paired is essential for those classes and not an outlier. As in, the category isn't meant to be one-handed, it's all meant to be two-handed. So, yeah, I'm not going to be including them. In addition, I'm also not going to be including Freed's Great Scythe, because it's not really paired. Like, you do use two, but only in the skill. It doesn't, give you a special moveset when you're, two-handing it or whatever. So, I'm not really going to put it in. Now, if you want a video with all that in, just tell me in the comments. It'd be pretty easy to add them. And starting off, we have number 13, the Dancer's Enchanted Swords. And on the first day of Dark Souls 3 being made, Miyazaki himself said screw you to everybody who wanted a cool paired sword boss weapon. There is no excuse for this pitiful mess of garbage. Seriously, what the hell went through your mind when you made this? This thing has awful split damage between 3 elements, one of which kinda sucks. Just gonna be honest, it does, it's not very good. And the damage is also based on the swords themselves, not just the weapon as a whole. Meaning that if you are using it one-handed for some odd reason, then there is actually a certain damage type that you're just not gonna get. Also, that blade in the left hand, the fire blade, which has the better element, will always deal less damage than the magic one because of the scaling, even though it isn't used unless you're two-handing it. That's just kind of sucky, just genuinely. And don't even get me started on the skill. The skill had so much potential. You know what they did? They just shoved it in a corner somewhere and said, nah, we're not going to use that. Because genuinely, you move so slow and the attack is not as good as the payoff. It should be better. It could be better, but it just isn't. And as I already mentioned, the scalings. The scalings are so bad to build around, and they make 0 sense. Plus, they're all just D scalings. So, screw you, I guess. But possibly the most egregious part of it is the fact that it doesn't even follow the boss's logic, which uses dark and fire damage, not magic and fire damage, which in turn causes the int and faith scaling to be different for this weapon, despite both looking like Ds. And that means that literally the only upside is the fact that this weapon is good looking. It is stylish, don't get me wrong. So, I'm sorry if this is your weapon. Not for absolutely dunking on it, but just because you actually use this. I'm gonna just point and laugh at you. At number 12, we have the Drang Twin Hammers. For the record, I was not expecting this to be put high on the list. And no, it is not fun to swing 2 gigantic balls around. That's for weirdos who celebrated Diddy getting freed. This thing, now, I know, what I just said is kind of a controversial statement, just some people. But I'm not saying this thing is bad. It does get A scalings with 222 base damage at a plus 10, or 220, sorry, that was my bad. Plus, it even has a faster moveset for hammers, which is nice considering the fact that hammers kind of suck, at least movement speed wise. Plus, you're getting strike damage, that's great, and it actually has decent luck build potential with statuses, which I wasn't expecting for a hammer. You also get really good poise breaking because it's a hammer, and you can pick it up really early game. But in my opinion, the negatives are pretty bad compared to other paired weapons. This thing feels slower than other paired weapons. The moveset is kind of meh. I don't know why, but I've just never liked it that much. And they're hammers. Just straight up. Hammers in this game do not have the same speed as in Elden Ring, which, honestly, really sucks, because Elden Ring hammers actually having a little bit of a speed boost does help them out a little. In this game, they don't get none of that, and for that reason, I can confidently say that I am very biased against hammers. I dislike them, with a lot of my heart. However, the moveset is by far the most egregious thing, in my opinion, for this weapon in particular. It just doesn't feel as good as other paired weapons, for whatever reason. Number 11, Valor Heart. So this could be a quality or a dex weapon, and it is not awful. I mean, it's not great, scaling wise especially, but it certainly does have a few strong points. So this is a shield and sword combo, which is freaking cool, I'm just gonna be real. And because of that shield, it's actually pretty decent for guarding for most weapons. Plus, its attacks are pretty quick because it's a short sword, actually really fast for like no reason. Plus, attacking actually means that you can automatically block opponents during your attacks due to the shield, which is freaking awesome. It's really good for trading, especially if you have higher stamina and actually know how to use it well, because automatically blocking opponents during your attacks allows you to negate some of the damage. And speaking of damage, this thing gets 210 base damage at +5, which is actually pretty decent for a paired weapon, despite it being a shield and sword. Now, the real issue that I have with this is the fact that most of the positives just don't feel as impactful as a lot of its negatives. You got quite a few of them, too. This thing is a DLC boss drop. That's pretty bad. I mean, the DLCs are difficult to navigate sometimes, and this one, it's not so fun. Plus, it's a short sword. It has short range, and the shield does not give any range to it. The sword has enough, but the shield, not a lot of range. And the weapon skill, not good. Even if it looks great, it just doesn't perform well. Plus, it kind of does get low damage. It's not great. I mean, like, you obviously get 210 base damage at +5, but that's not going to be doing a lot of favors, especially with bad scaling. I mean, the other thing is the fact that it's difficult to kind of get into this weapon. If you're really good and know what you're doing with it, you can become really powerful with it because, you know, you're known what attacks work best. But otherwise, you're going to struggle. And probably the worst of all, this thing does not get very high physical defense when you're guarding, only having 60 physical defense and 50 stability. Now, it is important to note that that is better than the majority of small shields and even some medium shields, but 60 is much worse than just a straight sword and kite shield combo, which does more damage and more guarding for just bigger weight. So, I do personally love this weapon, but those downsides are just something else, man. It is better than others, I'll admit that too, but like, I just have a couple of issues with it. And number 10, we got the Ringed Knight paired greatswords. So, I have a couple questions for you. First, do you want to look cool? Okay, so now do you want to show off your massive balls to anybody with an ultra greatsword? Do you want to have so much fun that you genuinely cannot play the game the same again? And if you said yes to literally any of those, this is your weapon. The damage on this is nuts because it's an ultra greatsword. The skill is so much fun, adding range, area damage, like literally everything. It even moves your hitbox. But, I mean, just genuinely, like, you're swinging around two gigantic swords. Not only are you just doing damage, but you're looking so cool. And speaking of damage, you're doing good area damage with that skill, especially because explosions. It's explosive. Like, what else do you want? Like, big explosion, obviously, that's going to do area damage. Plus, you're doing really good on staggering and stance-like damage. Now, the real issue isn't its power or its fun. I've already established that's great. But rather in acquisition. Because this thing is a very late pickup. Literally, it is right before Gale at the end of the second DLC, which is literally post-endgame. That is nuts. In addition, this thing has very high requirements, requiring 40 strength, and it's heavy, meaning that you're going to require more vitality as well just to use these things. Plus, it even has some other requirements, because it's fire-based-ish, I guess? I don't know. But probably the worst thing of all is the fact that it's slow. Now that makes sense considering it is an ultra greatsword, but a lot of faster paired weapons, which is kind of what they're all about, is speed, just will out DPS this one, even if this thing has great damage and fire damage. Basically, like, if you want to condense this argument, it's cool, but it's not great. I am very biased towards this thing. but even I know, like, it can't go any higher. And just know, that hurts my soul to say. Number 9 is the Drang Twin Spears. I know this might be a controversial take, considering some of the others, but I just gotta be honest, like, I don't see a lot of the upsides as true upsides for this thing. So, double penetration sounds great. Oh, okay, do not take that out of context. Do not. I said don't. So these are good. Maybe not getting the ace on 1 HP kind of good, but they are good. You get A and S scalings with 200 base damage, and you have horizontal swings, which is rare for a spear. Basically, the moveset is pretty great. And the skill, also great. The range, great. I mean, it's a spear. Like, obviously, you're going to have good range. And the skill is basic, but it can definitely cook. Like, give it a little chance. And, of course, thrust damage. Spears, you know, they do that. Now, all that sounds pretty nice so far. Like, if you're looking at that, that sounds like a great paired weapon. And it is. But the one thing is the major downside. Plus a couple other minor downsides. And that major downside is the fact that the physical infusions are very, very bad. Meaning that this is an elemental infusion monster. If you don't know, the physical infusions for this weapon get scaling that cannot outperform the default base damage and scaling. I.e., it loses so much base damage and the scaling is so bad that the regular uninfused version of this physically is way better. Elemental infusions, great. Physical infusions suck garbage. So, obviously, you're gonna have to have split damage for some things. I mean, if you're doing status or hollow, you're not, but like, it's not great. That's what you need to know. Not great. Now, they are good, but I'm gonna be real. They're good. They're a good weapon. But the physical infusions being so bad really does rub me the wrong way. Number 8 is the Warden Twin Blades. So for the Lonely Luck build in the corner, this is literally a ray of intervention. This thing has innate bleed with infusions. So yes, you can up that bleed even more. And with 60 luck and at plus 10, this thing gets a massive 83 bleed buildup per hit, which is doubled by the fact that it hits twice. So, screw you. This thing is strong. It even gets some A infusions if you're not wanting to go pure, pure bleed. But the fact that it has innate bleed means you're still gonna get bleed on there. Now, so far, this seems really good. And it is. It's okay. But that's only really if you're new to Dark Souls 3. Because I have some pretty bad news. Anybody who comes from Elden Ring, get ready. You're about to have your heart shattered. Status sucks. Bleed is nerfed heavily in Dark Souls 3 and does very little damage. And in addition, nearly every boss is either extremely resistant to it or flat out immune to bleed. It isn't nerfed as bad as poison. I'm gonna be honest, it isn't. But it will be enough that a luck build will struggle, even with the Warden Twin Blades, level 10, 60 luck, pure light, like, name all that does not matter, you're still gonna struggle. And the low base damage means you will be relying on the bleed. Even with A infusions, it's not gonna be as good as a bleed infusion, despite bleed infusions sucking. And the skill, useless. Like, can we just admit it, the skill is bad. And, I mean, if you're building for this, you're probably gonna be using a luck build. Who uses a luck build? Genuinely, I don't think I've ever seen anybody use a luck build in this game. So, I have nothing else to say. It's good, I guess, if you can use it right, but other than that, I know I'm not going to be using this for much longer. Number 7, the Fair and Greatsword. The Chihuahua on crack is back, baby, and dear heavens, this thing still turns me into a dog in heat. You're getting A scalings and dex with a really fun and awesome paired moveset that actually does a lot more than you think, not only allowing you to get some sweet horizontal hits and pretty awesome just movement, but also actually moves your hitbox a little, so you can dodge some attacks. Plus, that skill is a parry. I know, it's a little bit weird, but like, that's somebody's dream and someone's you know, it's somebody likes that. I don't, but somebody else does. Plus, you're getting good damage, like really good damage. I mean, when you have an A scaling in Dex, that just makes sense. And if damage wasn't enough, like if that damage was just too small, 20% extra damage against abyssal enemies, which just so happens to be one of the most healthy enemy types in the entire game. If you find an abyssal enemy, they're likely to have a lot of HP, so 20% extra damage, that's great. And it even has an early pickup, so you can build for it really early. Now, it is great, no doubt about it, but the downsides, they're a little bit worse. This thing is very heavy. I mean, it's an ultra great sword. Obviously, it's going to be doing a lot of damage with great base damage, great scaling, but it is going to be heavy, and it's going to be slow. The normal moveset is very slow, unfortunately. And the skill, which could have been really, really cool, is just parry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I said that parry was somebody's wet dream at some point, but I don't think that you're in the right headspace if that's the case. It's not good. Parry is not good. Now, I love this weapon to death, but the others do beat it, not just in damage, but in flexibility and utility, even if these are more fun. Number 6 is the Brigand Daggers. And I do not care who you are, what you have done, or what other weapons that you like, because these are going to kill you like a strawberry in a smoothie cafe. These not only get a few A scalings, but they also have quick step, and that's a pretty good skill for very skilled players. Plus, its crit modifier is extremely high, with just under the highest in the game at 125. The highest in the game, by the way, is 130. Yeah, that's right. Oh, and if you're a status builder, the double hits, they work on status. These things are very fast, even for paired weapons, because they're daggers, allowing for status builds to have a really viable build with this weapon. So, if you're looking for status, it's either this or Warden Twin Blades, and it just depends on your preference. Also, as I already mentioned, these things can be infused. You don't have to have them as bleed. Infusable? They're just as easily infused. They're also really light, and they actually have a really early pickup. So, I don't see a lot of downsides with these, I'm gonna be real. Oh, wait, no, I do. But the thing is, these downsides are not really just this, it's more daggers in general. These have a very low range, with lower damage compared to the other paired weapons, and that's all because it's a dagger. Daggers don't have a lot of, damage or range in exchange for being extremely fast and light. Plus, this scaling is unfortunately a little bit disappointing compared to other paired weapons, and the infusion scaling isn't much better either, even with a few A scalings. Now, don't get me wrong, these are by no means bad. They definitely deserve this spot on the list. It's just, they're daggers. Being daggers. Yeah, what else do you want me to say? And number 5 is the Crow Quills. In my opinion, this is just the Brigand Daggers, but better. This is the best and the coolest thrusting sword in the game. There is no question about that. And this time, I just want to tell you all about how fun it is. This thing gets S scalings and quite a few infusions, with A for many others, 200 base damage, which is pretty streamlined. You get range on the skill. That's right, you're getting range on it. And you're probably thinking, oh, like spear range? No, like you're throwing daggers at people. That's good range. Plus, the paired attacks, really good for a thrusting sword. And if that wasn't enough, you crit builders are gonna love it, because this thing gets 125 on the crit scaling, which is just barely less than the best in the whole game at 130. Genuinely, for a crit build, I would actually recommend this over even the Rapier and normal Dagger, which have higher crit modifiers. Plus, this thing has thrusting damage and slash damage with the paired moveset. Now, the real problem with this is more about it being a thrusting sword than anything else, and that means so little, because this thing is still nuts. The skill does like 6 damage per hit. I know that's awful, but it's still range. And it's not great at area damage, though the paired moveset does have some horizontal attacks. All in all, it is the best thrusting sword, but it is not the best weapon on this list. At number 4, we got the Wind Knight Twin Axes. So I actually originally forgot to put this in here, and I only realized it when I was browsing the game files to find all the paired weapon icons. Man, I hate my life. These things get incredible base damage for paired weapons with 244 at a plus 10. That is really good. Just have to point that out, that is really good. Plus, if that wasn't enough, this thing gets many A infusions with good Chaos and Dark infusions, aka getting Bs in both Intelligence and Faith. Now, it's also got a pretty okay skill for status buildup and stance damage, if you want that. And the moveset? It's really fast. It doesn't have a slower moveset like most axes do, and instead really leans into the speed. And, I'm just gonna be honest, it's good on just about every infusion. However, its greatness in damage and infusions is unfortunately hit hard by its acquisition, biggest of all. Because farming this thing is a pain. I believe there are 2 winged knights that use this. One of them is really annoying, and the other one is stronger. So, screw you, bro. Whoever did this, screw you. Plus, the range is pretty low, even for paired weapons, and you have really bad scaling unless you infuse it. Plus, you're kind of having highish weight and highish requirements because it's late game. And yeah, it is late game, unfortunately. And number 3, we have the Goddard Twin Swords. I cannot believe that this was nerfed, because there's just no way that they actually did nerf this. These things are still masterful and have range that I genuinely was not expecting. You have great scalings and infusions with multiple S's and A's, good base damage with a solid 200 at plus 10, and this thing is good for quality and plenty of other builds. Plus, you're getting really good range. Like, these things are long. Actually, the longest straight sword in the game. Plus, thrust damage. Who doesn't love thrust damage? So there are a lot of good positives with this weapon, but what about the negatives? The moveset feels slow, even though it isn't. Like, the moveset is great, but it feels slow at first if you've been using the Sellsword Twin Blades. Plus, you're getting this thing at a very late game point, and the skill is just... the skill is meh. Just be honest, the skill is pretty bad. But other than that, this is a peak weapon, and it is solid on just about every front. Seriously, I don't think anyone hates these for poor performance. And at number 2, we have the Sellsword Twin Blades. What did you expect? Seriously, what did you expect? These things are good, and I'm going to keep on saying that until you realize it, especially for PvE. These things have a faster moveset than many other paired weapons, with A infusions, with really good Dark and Chaos infusions. Now I know, you're probably thinking to yourself, really? A infusions at max? Yes. And it still somehow has the highest DPS in the game on the right build. This thing gets really good build up on status infusions, it can parry in the left hand, and you get a backflip instead of a kick. Plus, the dex scaling is actually pretty decent, and the weight is lighter than I was expecting. Now, its only real downside is the skill being trash and the slash damage being okay, I guess, but that's really it. So if you want to understand how good these are, just look at the Mercenary class, and just try a playthrough through with it. How does something that sounds this bad at first end up being so dang good? I don't get it. And finally, number 1, it's the Onigiri and Ubodachi. If you know your paired weapons, you already knew that these were good. But I'm going to tell you why I personally believe that these are the best. Not only are these one of the coolest looking weapons in the game, but they kick shins on top of that. In my opinion, if you want a one-sentence descriptor of these, Warden Twin Blades if they had good base damage. These things get S and A scalings and infusions, so already beating it in the infusion game, plus it's a really good quality weapon. Like, genuinely, for some reason, it's really good for quality. And the Chaos Infusion is nuts on these, getting 2 Cs and 2 As. That's right, you're getting a C in Strength, C in Dex, and 2 A scalings in Intelligence and Faith. That is literally nuts. Plus, if that wasn't good enough, innate bleed buildup. Just straight up, no matter what you got, innate bleed buildup. And if you're a status builder, you can just add more bleed with infusions. This thing also gets slightly, like very slightly, higher base damage than average with 208. 8 base damage, that's still better than 200. Also, like, it has a pretty good hollow infusion for, like, no reason. It has good luck build potential. And it also gets thrust damage somehow. Like, this has so few downsides. Probably because just everything is so great about this weapon. there's really only a few parts that are just slightly worse. The skill is only meh, like it's okay I guess, and the moveset feels weird at first, it takes a little bit to get used to. But besides all that, this thing is really good. Like I can't even say the downsides are all that bad, because this is a really good example of just paired weapons being paired weapons. So, out of this list, nearly every single paired weapon in the game is really good. I may like talk crap all I want about the Dragon Twin Hammers, but they're still good. Like, they're fast, they have strike damage, 220, like, base damage. Like, I can say it's meh, but that's only compared to other paired weapons, because by itself, it's a really good weapon. So, just, when I say that one weapon is above another, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's 100% fact. Like, this is also very subjective, but primarily, it also doesn't necessarily mean that a weapon is bad just because it's a little bit lower on a list. Except unless, of course, you're talking about the Dancer Enchanted swords, because those are just irredeemable trash. So, with that being said, thank you so much for watching up to this point, and, as always, happy hunting.